special virtual town hall
brought to you by ABC 12,
WNEM TV 5,
and Mid-Michigan Now.
Good evening. I'm Angie Hendershot from ABC 12, and I'm so honored to be joined by my colleagues Frank Turner from TV 5 and Mike Woolfolk from Mid-Michigan Now. We are broadcasting to stations across Michigan tonight, and on behalf of all of our stations, we want to thank you, our viewers, for your questions and for tuning in to this incredibly special event.
An unprecedented time in our history calls for an unprecedented response. Over the last 7 weeks, COVID-19 has hit our state hard. Michiganders have seen immense loss of life, jobs, and a sense of normalcy.
As we look toward our state's rebound, many questions still remain, like when will people be able to?
The governor is joined by Michigan's Chief Medical Executive, Dr. Janae Caldoun, and the Director of Michigan Labor and Economic Opportunity, Jeff Donofrio. Thank you all for being here virtually, of course. Before we begin tonight's questions, let's hear from the governor.
Well, thank you. Thank you to the stations for hosting this. Thank you to all of you who are tuning in. This is an unprecedented time, and yet we have seen some of the greatest people doing their part to help one another. I'm thinking about the nurses and the doctors and the fire and the police, the teachers who are helping students in this incredibly challenging time, the sanitation workers and the child care workers. Thank you for doing your part too. Whether you're just staying home or you've donated blood or you've been able to donate to your food co-op and to help people get meals that they need right now. Right now, we are in the midst of a global pandemic, and we have seen our curve flatten because you've done your part. It's been a tough time. There's no question, if you are a small business owner, if you're mourning the loss of a business, or if you're one of the people that is mourning the loss of a loved one, we have done our part to flatten this curve, and we have saved lives in the process. Now is a moment where we can start to think about turning the dial and starting to re-engage our economy. But we have to be really smart. We have to make decisions based on data and science, centered around the public health. That's our next step. We have to stay safe, we have to stay smart, and as we navigate this together, we know that tough times don't last, but tough people do, and we're going to get
employment. Mike, Frank, and I will all ask questions in one category, along with any follow-ups before moving on. And Mike won a very heated game of rock, paper, scissors, so he has the floor. He will get us started tonight. Mike?
All right, Angie, thank you. Governor, right now you are working through implementing your My Safe Start plan, which you announced on Monday, a systematic and rather methodical reopening of the state. We've received many questions about that plan. Let me start with the 8 regions. How
close to one another and how people travel to get to work. We also know that our public health system is divided up into regions as well. And so trying to overlay these two things, because as we think about re-engaging our economy, it is dependent in how well our public health system is ready to respond if there is an uptick in COVID-19. Of how it's safe to do so, region is one of the many factors that we look at. As you might recall, last week we were able to move forward with opening up motorized boating and golf and landscaping. Tomorrow I'll be signing an executive order that commences construction industry, both residential and commercial. We know that this is lower risk, and statewide we can start to turn that dial on that particular front. As we look to additional industries, we will be assessing region, but at this juncture, it's been safe to take these steps as a statewide measure, and that's why, as we think about what our next steps are, we're always going to be doing that assessment. The good news is, in Southeast Michigan, we have really seen people do their part and watch those numbers plummet. It doesn't mean we're out of the woods, because we are not. We still had another 600 people die in the last few days, and another 1,000 people get detected with COVID-19 just in the last 24 hours. But we do know that the trajectory we're on has flattened, and that is good news. So we have to stay smart and we have to keep doing our part. And as we make those next steps, we're going to do so in a way that avoids a second wave.
Governor, you mentioned the numbers, particularly the ones that were released today. The White House guidelines are calling for downward trending case numbers for at least 14 days as states ramp up. And we've yet to get beyond, I think it's 5 days consecutively with that. So are you committed to doing this